Welcome back into another episode of Red Zone Talk. I'm Owen Burke. He's Tim Hunt. Just two beautifully bearded guys ready to talk about some Week 11 action in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome back. How you feeling?
I feel horrible still not
Yeah,
100%, but
not 100%, but this guy's a warrior. He's here.
we're
He's
going to do
ready to go.
everything we can. After being blasted in the eardrums by that music, I feel really ready to go.
Yeah, I was like, we
Really.
might need to put a fucking headphone warning on for today. That was loud.
Well, I can adjust that down, so it'll be okay.
Okay,
The people
good,
will not get ear blasted like we did. So,
good. Yeah, whew, that was a shot. If we weren't awake yet, we're fucking awake now. I can tell you that much.
we're ready to go.
That we are. So obviously, schedule's been a little rough in and out. Some solo shows, some missed shows, this, that, and the other. But we're finally here. We got mid-season awards queued up for today. We've got our bets of the week back today, and kind of a lighter show as far as headlines go. Not a ton of stuff happening, but tis the season right after the trade deadline. We kind of hammered everything last week, and now we're kind of just settling back into our normal stuff. So I guess we got one headline to hit here before we get into the midseason awards. And it's something that I was thinking about because a lot of people have been talking about it. The Colts benching Joe Flacco, turning back to Anthony Richardson now. And I'm kind of curious what your thought of the move to go to Flacco and then to jump back. And then I kind of have an opinion, and it'll probably line up with yours a bit, but it also is probably a little different. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think trying to create some urgency back around it isn't the worst thought in the world, right? Because this season's over for the most part for the Colts, right? Like you're not
yeah,
really competing for a playoff spot at this point. How far out are they? Oh, I guess
I
they're
want to say
actually they're one
four
game
and
out.
six.
So yeah,
Are they 4 and 6
they're
or?
4-6, and that puts them one game out.
Yeah, like, but again, they get hot and make the playoffs. Are we counting on an Anthony Richardson led Colts team to take
Right, they're
down
not going anywhere
Buffalo?
significant.
Yeah,
But if you're them, you have to create some kind of urgency around Richardson, right? You have to find something that's going to get him going and get him to, understand that this is really important and this matters. You're not going to get unlimited time here. You don't have two more seasons to be great. Like it could be make or break for you this year, depending on how bad they are. So,
yeah,
um, sitting him felt like a really impulsive move. It felt like a Jim Irsay move.
yeah,
That sounds like something Jim Irsay would do. And then going back to AR, yeah, it would be Shane Steichen's move. Um, I think they just need to get back to what he's comfortable. Like if
yeah,
I were them, I'd have a lot of runs. I'd feed JT, I'd feed him. A lot of RPOs. Just let him do what he does best and try to get comfortable and don't worry about his body. This isn't like
yeah,
you're trying to build his confidence at that point. Like if he has a body with no confidence, it doesn't matter. So
exactly. And it's been a hot topic. I've seen a lot of people talking about it, a lot of analysts talking about it because they bench him the 2 games that he's out. They lose to Minnesota, they lose to Buffalo, and now they're turning back to him. And people are like, "What did you think? Joe Flacco is just going to come in and gunsling you over those 2 games? You're just going to now abandon Flacco after losing to a team with 2 losses and another team with 2 losses?" Like, and part of me somewhat agrees with that fact. But the more I sat there and thought about it, like, if you're looking to rebuild Anthony Richardson's confidence, do
yeah,
you want him trotting out there against possibly the number one defense in the National Football League in the Minnesota Vikings,
yeah,
and then also an 8-2 going to be a division champ in the Buffalo Bills? Seems like a pretty decent spot to kind of sit your guy, refocus, let Joe Flacco go take the beating for 2 weeks, and now he comes back to this week where they play the Raiders. It's not a tough team. I'll pull up the schedule. I meant to have that memorized correctly.
they
It's the
play
Jets.
the Jets. Oh, an easy game, a free game.
Yeah,
Some might
like
call it.
should be a free game. The defense has looked not great since Salah got fired. So, like, it's this. I mean, to me, it's kind of almost perfect. It did feel like a knee jerk reaction when they benched him, and I wasn't a super huge fan of it. But now seeing them go back to this, because we talk about that all the time, where either a rookie's not playing right out the gate or whatever the case is, and a team's like, oh, we're going to get this guy his first start or we're going to get him back in the lineup. And they're like, we're going to trot him out there against the Chiefs or we're going to trot him out there against like a normal, not this year, but a normal Ravens defense. And you're like, why do you just want this kid to suffer? Like, pick an easier game to throw him. Don't throw him out there against the top 5 defense. And again,
Yeah.
you bench him against Minnesota, who's been one of, if not the best defense in the league. You avoid the head-to-head matchup with Josh Allen. Now you get the Jets who are reeling. The only thing I don't love is if there's ever going to be a fire lit underneath the Jets' ass to try to get something in motion to at least have some confidence going into next year, this is the game for them to do it. So AR can't just see it as a free game. You need to look on the other side and see Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, ignore the record, and go play some fucking football. And I agree. Lean on the run game, RPOs, quick one decision reads, and then just get some play action going. Because that's to me where he's really dangerous. When you can
Yeah.
get him out rolling a bit off a deep rollout and just Alec Pierce 60 yards down the field, like whatever the case may be, like get him in rhythm. And then I think if you really want AR's confidence to build, I think you have to let him toss a couple shots. Like
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
think he's a guy that's going to build a ton of confidence just throwing drag routes and slants all day. Like, get him the rhythm, get him 4 or 5 of those, and then give him at least a shot or two.
and if you look at the remaining part of their schedule, they have two playoff teams left, right? So
Yeah.
they have the Jets this week, then they have the Lions, and then Patriots, Broncos, that's your other playoff team, Titans, Giants, Jaguars. So you've
Yeah.
got really the cake part of your schedule left. So
Yeah. Those next week's not going to be fun. Playing against PS2 and Denver's not going to be fun. But other than that, like a lot of winnable games there for a
yeah,
team that, again, if they can get a win this week and then say they lose those other two, but they can win out elsewhere, like pretty decent shot to make the playoffs, especially if the Texans can't get it together and start getting some winning football going. They have a shot at the division, truthfully. So I do kind of like the move. Like again, I agree with you. Like
oh,
when
they're
they
six
benched him, I
four.
was like, dude, you've gotta let him just grow. Like you can't expect him to learn anything on the bench. He sat on the bench all year last year, and it almost kind of looks like he got worse. So, but in the retrospect of avoiding the Bills and the Vikings, this kind of does seem like a pretty decent move that they pulled.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think it was the worst decision ever to yank him out of their two hardest games of the year and then bring him back after. So um
Yeah, I'm excited. Like I loved him as a prospect. Like he was one of, if not my favorite quarterback outside of Caleb Williams this year coming out, just
I
because
think he
he
has one
or
more year too. Right?
last
Like
year.
I think you give him one more year to kind of see what he's got. He's
Yeah,
not necessarily in that Bryce Young category.
nah.
Same class, but you expected a lot more out of Bryce out of the gate, and you haven't seen that. Um, and it seems
And I
like
think there's higher physical tools to sit on with AR
right,
than
yeah, you can
with
see the
Bryce.
upside where he just makes these ungodly throws and can run like a great like he just seems like a freak athlete that hasn't been taught to play quarterback quite yet. So,
Hmm.
um, I think there's hope for AR. I think Bryce Young needs a scene change at this point. I think that's going to be what's ultimately best for him is just a whole new team. So
Yeah, unfortunately so. But yeah, I hope he can get it figured out. And I mean, this is a team like if you get to the fourth round and there's a quarterback sitting there that's somewhat decent, take a shot on just to have a little bit of insurance. Maybe you find that next Dak Prescott, the next Brock Purdy, but unless they absolutely just tank out and they land in the top 5, like I don't see them going after a quarterback this year.
yeah, and I
Like,
don't think they'll like. I mean, the top two quarterback prospects are Cam Ward and Shador,
yeah,
and I don't think either one of them are going to make it to where the Colts are drafting. Um,
yeah,
because yeah, you look at the top part of that draft, and it is bad.
yeah, they would have to epically collapse down the stretch
Yeah,
from Flacco and Richardson because if they're tanking that bad, then Richardson's going to get benched again.
yeah. Because you have the Giants picking second, they need a quarterback. Tennessee picking third, they need a quarterback. Las Vegas is picking five, they need a quarterback. So, a
Yeah,
lot of teams in that early part that need a quarterback. Dang, I did not
be interesting.
realize San Francisco's sitting on the outside right now when it comes to the playoff standings. Holy cow!
Yeah, dude, they're struggling.
I mean,
That division is wide open.
I knew it was bad. I didn't realize it was that bad. Dang.
Yeah, usually you sit here by week 11 and you're like the NFC West is a 4 team race, and it's because all teams are like they're like the NFC North this year, but it's actually the inverse. They're all like the fucking NFC South right now, where it's
Yeah.
just like who's gonna win this shitty division. That's what it's very weird to see the NFC West standings look how they do going into week 11.
Yeah. Oh, I guess they're only a game out still, even of either a wild card spot or of the division. So they're not
Are
in
they
that
four
bad.
and six too? Or are they Five and
They're 5-4.
five
Uh,
and four.
the
Okay.
the Commanders playing on Thursday night. They're 7-4. That's why they're ahead of them there. Um, and then the Cardinals are 6-4. So it's not like it's completely out. And the Rams
No,
aren't completely out. Neither Seattle. They're both 4-5. So
exactly. Like
that
all those
division's
teams are
just
sitting
wide
right
open.
there. Yeah, it is. It looks like the epitome of the fucking NFC South right now. It's insanity.
You know what I kind of hope happens, and this is just maybe me being an evil person, and Bryce
Mm.
is going to hate this. I hope they miss the playoffs and they fire Kyle Shanahan.
Ooh,
How funny
you
would
know,
that be?
honestly, I talked to him about it recently because I don't remember how it came up. We were just talking football, and I was like, "Oh, you got Kyle Shanahan, you'll always have a shot." And he goes, and I was like, "Oh, lose a little bit of faith over there, are we?"
I hate.
He said, "You just can't fucking win the big one." He's like, "I can't tell you how many times I've been so excited to see us make it all the way, and just some of the most conservative and just not winning play calling I've ever seen in my life." And I said,
Uh, I
That's
I hate this.
wow.
I really hate this. So there's times where I understand it, right? Like if you have a Mike Tomlin, if you have who's the Cincinnati coach forever, um,
Marvin Lewis.
Marvin Lewis. If you have a Marvin Lewis type, right, where you're like, we always just barely make the playoffs and like lose a game, I'm okay. Like I'm cool like firing that guy. I really am. I hate it when people are like, he can't win the big one. It's like, yeah, do you think the Eagles would take Andy Reid back right now? Like three
Yeah,
Super Bowls right later? Like you're like, I really drive it bothers me to my core when it's like, okay, your team isn't good. It's great. Year in and year out with this guy as your head coach, and you want to fire him because he can't win a Super Bowl. That is the
yeah,
worst mentality to have because it is how you let really good coaches leave and go somewhere else and win Super Bowls for other teams.
yeah. I do somewhat agree. Like it has to be epic collapses for me to get to that point, and also like I just don't think they're there. And especially when you look at the scope of like they played Patrick Mahomes both times. Like,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? Like, as a sign from the rest of the league, it's I mean, you lose to him. That happens. Like that's normal.
Like it really bothers me. And it's like this whole Sirianni thing too. It's like it's insane to me. Like I understand Sirianni's been a little bit of a mess, but dude
Yeah,
wins.
the Sirianni thing. Yeah, I agree because what he has like the fourth highest winning percentage in the NFL.
Yeah.
I saw that clip from the McAfee show. Like the only thing with Sirianni is like I pair it with the not being a specialist on either side of the ball and being kind of a fucking head case in the
Yeah.
media and like yelling at the fans and stuff like that. So all those things tie in where I'm like, and again, I'm one where I'm like, if I don't think I can win the big one, I don't care if we win 11, I don't care if we won 13 games. Like, if I really don't feel like I can go win the big one with you, like, I'm not going to waste my window and be like, well, we'll give
But
him
they
a shot.
can.
Like,
That's the thing. Like they can. Like
that's true.
he's played the cheat. He took them to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, who's a backup now.
Oh, you're talking about Kyle Shanahan now.
Yeah, I'm saying Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
I mean, even Nick Sirianni took the Eagles to the Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts, right? But it was mainly.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, and Nick Sirianni is a little different because he doesn't coach any side of the football, right? And we've talked
Yeah.
about how we're not always the biggest fan of that. At least own one side of the football.
Yeah.
If you like, I'd prefer it to be an offensive guy, but if you're not an offensive guy, at least have a dominating defense. But then
Yeah,
like Nick
exactly.
Sirianni's in this category of like neither. He's kind of,
Yeah.
and it's crazy. Like Jim Harbaugh is in that category as well, where he was a special teams guy, right?
Are you saying John Harbaugh?
John Harbaugh. Sorry,
Yeah,
Jim was an
that's
offensive
exact.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah, I was like, that's exactly where I'm at with John at this point because, and it's worse when it really doesn't bother you. Like from 2013 up until probably 2019, I didn't really have any issue with it because like we weren't great, we weren't losing coordinators left and right. When you're a really good football team, and Sirianni's feeling it, right? He has
yeah,
two new coordinators this year. We had to go replace Mike McDonald after 1 year last year, and we had to replace. Well, we fired Greg Roman, but we're probably going to have to replace Monken this offseason or the next. So you get into this cycle of, yeah, if you're winning a lot of games and your head coach can't own one side of the football, you're just in coordinator hell. You're just in constant turnover,
yeah.
constant new offenses, constant new defenses, and it just stinks. Like I would have, again, would firing John Harbaugh last offseason been the best thing as far as for the like I have no idea. Like it would have killed me. I love John Harbaugh. He's been the only head coach of the Baltimore Ravens while I've been a fan. I've never had another head coach in the NFL. Like that's short of a time frame that I've been a Ravens fan because I think he got hired in
He had to
I want to say
be.
it's like
They've only had a couple
'06 or
coaches
'07.
in their history, right? They're
Yeah,
young,
they've only had 3, I want to say,
and they because
and 2 of them won a Super Bowl.
they were formed in like what the 1989 something like that.
96. It
96.
was 96 when they moved from Cleveland to Baltimore. And Brian Billick won a Super Bowl in 2000. And I think there was one guy in between. And then Harbaugh took over in like '06, '07, '08, somewhere in there. And that's around, I became a fan in like '08 or '09, I think.
Yeah,
And then they won a Super Bowl in 2012. And you've been going since. But like, if they think over the next 5 years that, say, Monken gets hired this offseason and whether it's Dable or they go find a guy, this, that, or the other, like they're going to consistently lose their offensive coordinator every 2 to 3 years. With Lamar Jackson putting up MVP type numbers in any system he walks into, the Ravens are going to be in constant OC hell. So hiring Mike McDonald last year as my DC wouldn't have helped that fact, but we saw how much of a difference that defense played last year versus this year with pretty much the same personnel. Like I mean, the defense hasn't gotten that much better talent wise. I don't think it's gotten it. I don't. We didn't really make any up. We drafted Nate Wiggins in the first round, and you lose PQ and Trenton Simpson. I think will be able to fill in that role just fine. It was just Patrick Queen playing next to Roquan Smith in his 4th year versus Simpson starting for his first year now, aside Roquan. But like other than that, they lost Clowney.
yeah.
We didn't bring anybody else in on the defensive end except for Eddie Jackson in the secondary, and he's been horrible. So
I,
like
I
having Mike McDonald as my head coach right now would, I think, we might be undefeated. Like
he,
obviously not, but
here's the other thing I'll say too is like I think Belichick's gonna coach a team next year and
yeah,
be successful with them, right? Like,
yeah,
and that bothers me a little bit that we just didn't keep him to just say screw it and you know. And I was really only a fan of firing Belichick because I was like, oh well, Vrabel is available and he's a young guy
exactly.
that I'd love to just bring back to the program, and it's a good fit, like and Mayo's been okay, you know what I mean? He hasn't been great, but he'll probably get longer than he should. Like that's the thing I'll say about him is I kind of
Yeah,
see how this goes, and he's going to get way more time than he ultimately should. But it's going to eat at me when Belichick is coaching. I don't know, the Cowboys. I'm not really sure.
I don't think it'll be Dallas, but I don't know where it's gonna be. I do not see a world where Jerry Jones. I don't see a world where Bill Belichick really would want to work for Jerry Jones,
Yeah,
but I think he would get past that because again, we've talked about he's a football historian. He wants the win record. They're a pretty decent team, and also
I think
never hurts just
Jacksonville.
in history scope to be like I was coach of the Dallas Cowboys and we won 10, 11 games. Like that's I mean that's it's something on your resume. Like it is something that hits there. But at the same time, again, Jerry Jones's MO is I want to succeed and I want us to win the Super Bowl or be really good, but I want the credit for it. Bill Belichick comes down there and they
Yeah,
go win 12 games. Nobody's like, "Oh, thanks Jerry. Great job." No, it's like
yeah,
Bill Belichick is our Lord and Savior in Dallas and no matter what they did next year, he probably would fucking get let go or 2 years down the road,
yeah.
forced into retirement.
I I don't know. It's going to be weird to see where some of these coaches land
Yeah.
because like Jerry's the weirdest one because he's going to hire somebody that he can control. So he's not going to get one of these big names.
I think right now it doesn't make a ton of sense, but it would also that is what makes it like the most Dallas Cowboy move of all time is that they just bring Kellen Moore back around, just steal him back from Philly,
That'd
or
be
is he
funny.
in?
No, he's in Philly.
Is he? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Steals him from Philly, brings him back around, even though they literally let go of him to make McCarthy the fucking play caller.
It would
And
be
I will tell
that would
you,
be a Jerry Jones thing.
yeah, and it is a guy who works, in the DFW area around a lot of Cowboys fans. They fucking can't stand Kellen Moore. They do not like him as a play
Really?
caller. They don't. Yeah, which I thought he was
I thought he
pretty
was
damn
pretty
decent.
good. Yeah. He's
That's what I thought.
and now that the Eagles are kind of catching on to his offense in Philly, like you see that offense like upticking now.
Yeah. And I mean, he was pretty good the one year that the fucking Chargers had him. It's just he was handicapped by Brandon Staley and his
Yeah.
dumbass defense.
Yeah, Brandon
So,
Staley was terrible on defense.
yeah, good lord.
Please do not ask if I will be calling plays going forward. I am very confident in my play calling ability. That's still like one of the
He,
worst press conferences of all time that he said that
oh,
out loud.
100%, dude.
Please
I
stop
just,
asking that question. I know we look
it's
horrible every week. It's like, what?
maybe Brandon Stevens today. Brandon Stevens. Who were we
Brandon
just
Staley?
talking about? Brandon Staley. Maybe he's the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys. That sounds like a Jerry Jones quote.
Is he?
Out of in a vacuum, that Brandon Staley quote sounds something exactly Jerry Jones would say. Maybe that's the move.
What's he doing? Do you know? Is he still coaching?
If he is, it's not a coordinator spot.
Oh, he's the assistant head coach for the 49ers. Makes sense why they're having a bad season.
No wonder the defense sucks. What's going on here?
Was he? Oh, he was a Rams guy before. That's what I thought. Okay.
I mean, hey, good on him. That is a good spot. Like, if you're a defensive guy and you want a head coaching job, you go be the fucking DC for a Kyle Shanahan team because
He's
you know
just
John Lynch is going to put a talented unit out there, and all you got to do is be relatively decent. You're getting a head coach offer.
like the NFL coaching tree system is like so convoluted with just made up terms. He's the assistant head coach. He's not the DC.
Yeah, like
Like
he'll probably be the DC whenever the one that they currently have gets hired elsewhere.
it's always so confusing to me when they're like I kind of get it when it's like DC slash assistant head coach. You're like,
Yeah,
okay, so you're just trying to like be like, well, he's a DC, but he's more important than that. Like I kind of get it
yeah,
when they do that, but then when they do like just assistant head coach, like what does he do? Like who does he
yeah.
coach?
Associate assistant head coach to player operations. You're like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah,
that's,
like it's
that's not. You just made that up.
like what is it? Offensive quality control? Like that's a step. That's just like I know that's like their way of being like, hey, we want you to coach, but we don't have a position group for you to coach yet. Like that's
Yeah,
that like first step up, and then you become a positions coach, and then try to become a coordinator. But like you get into some of these like weird fucking titles. It's like, what does he do? Like what?
game manager coach, game
Yeah,
manager. You're like
head of
help him.
Gatorade operations on sidelines. It's like, is that just a water boy? It's like, is that why'd you make that sound so fucking weird? Like what?
Requires a bachelor's degree for that,
Yeah,
by the way.
must have a master's degree and 8 years of head coaching experience in the NFL. It's like, what? Why is that so hard to qualify for?
That makes not a lot of sense. Huh?
But
Oh, all right. Ready to
strange.
get into some midseason awards here?
Yeah, yeah, let's do it. Let's talk MVP. It's my least favorite award right now. Uh Lamar is the betting favorite for MVP. I don't think he wins it. I really don't. I think they're going to find every reason on the face of the earth to not give Lamar. This would be his third MVP, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he would have one more than Patrick Mahomes.
It's going to take him playing at this pace and them winning most of their games down the stretch for them to to get over the voter bias and putting him over Patrick Mahomes as far as MVP is concerned.
Oh,
Um,
Mahomes is way down the list.
I was just thinking about that because I was thinking about the odds and everything, and I was up until, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago when I saw it last, and he was still like plus 150 for odds, and I was like, this guy shouldn't be anywhere fucking close to the conversation. He's just not played well. His stats don't look well. And I was sitting there thinking about, I was like, I guess you can't drop his betting odds that much because
Yeah.
all it takes is a good 6 game run from him, and they'll fucking hand it to him at the end of the year. So
So
sportsbooks are trying to cover their own ass with the betting odds.
here's the top five as it sits right now. Lamar is plus 110. Josh Allen is plus 400. Mahomes is plus 600. Jalen Hurts is plus 1600. Brock Purdy is plus 1700.
So it's a 3 horse race essentially
Pretty
by
much
odds
is
standards.
they're viewing it. It gets weird after Brock Purdy. Kyler Murray plus 2200. Uh,
He's played well
he has. So it's just but like I just wouldn't have guessed that. You know what I mean?
now.
Joe Burrow plus 30,000 or 3,000, excuse me, 3,000. I just don't see that in any world. Uh
No, like they would have to fucking almost win out.
I'm shocked Jared Goff is plus 4,000. I thought he would be higher up on this list.
If you take away that Monday night game or Sunday night game against Houston, to me he should be 2 if not 3.
Yeah,
Like I'm
that's
okay with you putting him behind Allen. He threw 5 picks in one game and was like, "Nope, he sucks.
yeah, it's
Not
the
an
end of
MVP
him.
candidate." And I'm like, I
Uh,
would toss $1 on Jared Goff to win MVP right now cuz I mean, if Lamar stumbles, the thing I think Josh Allen's going to win his first one,
I think it
which
has to be.
is
I think it's like we're it's like I don't always think the NFL MVP works like the NBA MVP, where the NBA MVP is very storyline driven,
Very narrative
very
driven. Yeah.
narrative driven, right? Most of the time that's the case. And the NFL MVP, I don't always feel like that's the case. Like most of the time I feel like it does go to the best player. I think
It
we
goes
are
to the best quarterback.
the best quarterback, right? And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, no, not the best player. Good point.
Yeah. No.
But I think we're getting to a point now where I don't know. Like, I think it is becoming narrative driven because I just don't see a world where they just hand Lamar another MVP. Like, because you can argue Mahomes probably should have won MVP one of the seasons Lamar won it, not last
See,
year,
like,
but
and that's the issue. Is 2019? I don't think any like that was the unanimous year. To me, that was
yeah,
if Lamar won any of them, it's that one. Last year, it probably shouldn't have been Lamar, but I couldn't tell you who it was. Like
yeah,
last year, probably should have been the year it didn't go to a quarterback. Like as a Ravens
yeah,
fan, I can fully admit, like it shouldn't have been a quarterback. Like I'm not going to sit here and say it shouldn't have been Lamar. If it was going to be a quarterback, to me, it was Lamar because again, they had that gauntlet of a 4 to 5 game stretch down the end of the year last year, and he beat the shit out of Miami, out of Jacksonville, who was a playoff team last year,
yeah,
and went into Santa Clara on Christmas Day and beat the shit out of the Niners. You know, like on the way into the playoffs, and then stacked a game against the Chargers and another really good team. So like when the numbers don't jump off the page again, it shouldn't have been a quarterback. But if the quarterback stats don't jump, to me, you're going to start looking at impressive wins. And nobody played better football and had more impressive wins down the stretch than Lamar did. So that's the thing that's going to really frustrate me is I feel like this one he probably deserves more than anybody else in the league, but he kind of didn't deserve last year's, so it's probably going to even out, which pisses me off because I really would have just rather him win this one.
yeah.
And I don't. Bills fans have turned into my most hated fan base, and it's because I'm on Twitter too much, and they just cannot keep my quarterback's name out of their mouth when it comes to talk about Josh Allen.
So here's how I think Josh Allen goes down in history. Is he's Philip Rivers, he's Drew Brees, where it's like he's an all-time great quarterback, right? He is legendary, but he is
Hmm.
just never going to be the guy. Like he'll
Yeah,
always be overshadowed by guys who are just slightly better than him. And
which is so funny because if you asked 2 years ago, Lamar was that guy, and
yeah,
Brady and Manning was Mahomes and Allen.
Allen, and I think it's flipped. I don't think they hold that same stature anymore. Like I mean, he's a
Yeah,
really good quarterback, right? He is taking a team that got worse compared to last year and is just as successful, right?
yeah, he's
Like
the third best quarterback in the game,
yeah, and
no
he's
doubt in my mind about it.
yeah.
I think solidified top three right now, and to me, it should be solidified in this order. Should be Mahomes, Lamar, Allen. And honestly, I think it's the solidified top four, and I put Burrow at four.
Yeah, I think Burrow, it gets a little goofy when you start talking 4 or 5. Um,
Yeah, five is people will try to lock Justin Herbert into that five spot, and I'm like, I don't
it's
know if I'm
close, but
really
maybe yeah. I mean, the
like.
guy he always plays really well, but he never feels great. Like that's the thing with Herbert.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not saying it's crazy to put him there. I think it's crazy to call him a lock at
No,
five.
he's not a lock at
Like
5. I mean, I think Joe is a lock. I mean, I don't know. There's some
to
quarterback.
me, Joe's a lock at four because I'm like, I don't know who else comes into that
I would
conversation.
take Herbert over Burrow right now.
Yeah, in a vacuum by themselves, I think I might too.
Just based off
But
of consistency of play, availability. Like Joe Burrow's always he's hurt every offseason somehow.
yeah,
You know what I
it's
mean?
true.
And it just they always start slow because he's hurt, and then it's like they're in a hole and they got to dig themselves out of the hole. Like
Yep.
it's never as easy. And the other thing I'm gonna say with this too, and I might take Allen over Lamar. It's close, like it's really close. But if you look at the success Allen's having this year with the lack of weapons, you know what I mean. You take away they added Amari Cooper, but he's been hurt, right? Like so he's played 2 games for them. Like I don't know if Lamar's ever had this level of success without these kind of guys.
My counter to that is that unanimous MVP year in 2019, he had Mark Ingram, a rookie Hollywood Brown, a first year Mark Andrews,
Yeah,
and Willie Snead. Like
that's true. That's
if I pulled up that 2019 receiver, I think Miles Boykin was our second or third receiver.
yeah, that's
Like
scary. That's not good.
it's Like, and it's no discredit to Josh Allen. I don't want
Yeah.
to make it seem like I'm a Josh Allen
No,
hater.
but it's a close conversation for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not. I
Yeah.
think this year, well, even this year, I mean, Josh has played really good football. I
He's
can't sit
played
here
really
and
good
say it's the
football with
slam
like
dunk.
Dalton Kincaid and like Keon Coleman and uh
Yeah, like,
Khalil Shakir, right? Is that the guy's name
yeah,
that's having like a
yeah,
really
yeah.
good year? And it's like nobody knew who that guy was last year.
Yeah, I don't hate Josh Allen. I want to get that out there. I don't hate Josh Allen. I think to me, he's the third best quarterback in the league. I wouldn't agree with you if you had him second, but it's not a crazy take to have.
I'm just
But
saying
can't
it would be a
I can't stand the fan
conversation.
base.
I would think about it,
Yeah,
right? Like if I just said, in a vacuum, like, I mean, the problem is you go, well, who's had more playoff success? And it's like they've both fallen really short of where we want them to be. So it's really
yeah,
hard to say. Like, if one of them, I think if Josh Allen makes the Super Bowl this year or Lamar makes the Super Bowl this year, I think it locks them at two.
at two, whoever makes it first.
Like if one of them made the Super Bowl, you'd be like, okay, well now you have to say Lamar because they got over the hump, or you'd have to say Allen because they got over that. Because it's like the only quarterback we've seen beat Patrick Mahomes is Joe Burrow at 4. So it's like it doesn't even factor in.
Yeah, and the last thing to tack in there, the whole I hate, and Bills fans love this, and that's another reason why I can't stand their fan base. Like, I hate them more than Chiefs fans at this point. Like, I just, and maybe it's because the Chiefs are kind of just separated on the field, and I've just seen us lose games we should have won twice, 2 years in a row now, in the AFC title game, and then week one this year. But they love the whole playoff record thing because Lamar's playoff record, Josh Allen, I think is like 5-4. I can't remember the exact numbers, and Lamar's only got two, maybe three playoff wins. So like, oh, but Josh is better in the playoffs, this, that, and the other.
I
And
don't
I'm
really
like,
care.
well, here's the other thing is Lamar Jackson has been the number one seed going into the playoffs 2, if not 3 years now. If you look at Josh Allen's playoff record post wild card, just divisional and AFC title games, his record's, I think, just one loss better than Lamar. Like, I think they're both are like Lamar's 2-4 or 2-5, and then Josh is 2-4 post wild card. But since Josh has never been the one seed and they play in the wild card every year of his career, he's had those 4 or 5 free playoff wins. So it that's where I'm not a huge fan of the wild card system as it is now.
Josh Allen is 5-5 in the playoffs.
I wonder how many of those are wild card wins.
Um, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5.
So
All
what,
5 of
four?
them actually.
No, he made the AFC title game one year, didn't he?
Oh no, sorry, I counted a divisional. So yeah, he's 5-5, and he has 4 wild card wins. 1, 2, 3. Where's the fourth? What am I not seeing here? Yeah, so you have a wild card, a divisional, another wild card, another wild card. Okay, yeah, 4 wild cards and 1 divisional win.
Yeah. So like that's where that narrative of like, oh, Josh is so much better. And when you bring the touchdowns, interceptions, and everything into it, obviously, yes, like Josh's stats are better, but like, well, his playoff record is so much better than Lamar's. And I was like, well, I'm sorry that Lamar makes the fucking one seed and doesn't have to play the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Cleveland Browns in the fucking wild card round the last 2 years. Like, we didn't get to beat up on the Jaguars. Yeah, Lamar's playoff stats are not great.
It's two,
Touchdowns,
he's
interceptions.
2-4, and he has lost in the wild card round once.
Exactly.
In 2019, they lost, and then they lost
Did
in.
we win? Have
Huh?
we won a wild card game? I think
Yes,
we won one.
yeah, you won
Yeah,
one against Tennessee, and then
yeah,
he
I
won
remember that
one
game.
divisional game last year against Houston.
Yeah, we should have fucking lost that other Tennessee game we played if it wasn't. There's just also so many games. Like, I remember that Tennessee wild card game so vividly because
Yeah, he played Tennessee
we,
back-to-back years. Weird.
yeah, and it was 2019 when they spoiled us. That was the year I really thought we should have won a Super Bowl,
Was
and
that
we
was that the
just
peak year? Was that the year that the Titans made all the way to the AFC Championship? Right?
maybe, yeah, and lost to Kansas City.
Because I think they beat the Patriots on the way to beating. Oh no, that
Beating
was
us.
2020,
Okay,
the year you guys lost to him in the divisional round.
yeah, I remember that. The divisional one, like,
Oh,
we should
that was that year.
the 2019 season.
Yeah, they
2020
they beat the
by the time of that game.
Patriots. That was the end of the Tom Brady's career, and then they beat Baltimore, and then they lost to Kansas City in the wild card or in the
I still
championship.
Yeah, that game haunts me. And then that wild card game, we would have lost again. Lamar broke a 50-yard scramble and scored, and I think we won that game like 17-10. It was literally the difference maker. We couldn't get anything going on offense, and he just ripped a 60-yard scramble, which I wish he would do more. I'll be honest with you there. Like his rushing stats, like anyone who thinks his rush yards are free these days, you're not watching Ravens football, dude. I'm telling you, he does not take off. Like he's the king of eluding 3 sacks and then getting up to the line of scrimmage, like on the hash or on the numbers, and then just looking downfield and trying to uncork it, even though there's 20 yards of free space in front of him. Like that part does drive me nuts a bit, but I'm not complaining because he hasn't been hurt yet this year. So
Uh,
yeah, Lamar Jackson, both of our MVP picks for the midseason
yeah,
awards.
that was a deep
Um,
conversation. I don't think he ultimately wins it, but I would give it to him right now.
Yeah, right now I think it has to be like I mean he's on pace for like 4,500 yards, 40 touchdowns, and still like 600 to 700 rushing yards. Like it's asinine what he's doing with the football right now in his hands. So right now he's the MVP again. He would have to hit that pace and Baltimore go into the playoffs as the 1 or the 2 seed for me to. And honestly, the Bills are going to have to stumble. I think if the Bills make the one
Yeah,
seed or they're the 2 seed and Baltimore's the 3, like they're going to give it to Josh because it's not going to be Patty. I do think it's kind of a 2 horse race between Lamar and Josh at this point, which would kill me. I don't want Josh to win an
I don't
MVP
know.
just
Mister
because it's.
Unlimited could sneak his way in there if they're the one
Oh
seed.
god, yeah. What's the MVP odds on that shit,
Yeah,
huh?
probably non-existent. Probably plus
Yeah,
$1.2 million.
yeah. Not bettable.
Not bettable. Offensive player of the year. I have Jamar Chase. Because he has missed games and he's still the receiving leader. Like he has been
Yeah,
just an absolute machine this season. T Higgins has been hurt for a lot of the year.
I
So
don't think he's played a game
has he not played a single
or
game? No, he.
maybe since like week 3 or 4. I think he's missed like 5 or 6
Yeah, I
weeks
was
at
like,
this
I thought
point.
he played a little bit, but still, he has been an absolute monster because of that fact. Like it's been crazy to me. Um, so yeah, I'd say Jamar, and I mean, this is really also a 3 horse race as well. So
Yeah. The only thing I have against Jamar is just because, and obviously this isn't an actual critique to him trying to win the award, but of his, how many receiving yards does he have? Give me the totals. Of his 981 receiving yards, 457 of them have been in the 2 games against Baltimore, who are the worst defense in the league, which is just, I'll tell you this,
crazy.
like, and I loved it because I got to work on that Friday after that Thursday night football game. And everybody's like, well, that was a fucking doozy last night. Like, oh, I played against Jamar Chase in fantasy. Oh, I had to play against Joe Burrow and Jamar. I had Joe Burrow and Jamar. I'm like, I'll tell you this, dude. I don't care. Win, lose, or draw. If they're fucking 2 wins and it's week 16, if they have 16 wins and it's week 16, if they're playing the fucking Ravens, you start both of them. Like, obviously, they're both auto starts in most leagues, but
Yeah.
like, you fucking get those motherfuckers in the lineup. Like, I'm convinced. Like, I don't know if they've had a bad game against us. Like, even last year when our defense was good, they just Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase just fucking shred our secondary nonstop. And that's the game that I would hope for as Jamar Chase. Like, if I had either of them in fantasy, that Thursday night football game was perfect. Let them rack up fucking 40 to 50 fantasy points apiece. Baltimore still gets the dub. I'm happy at the end of the night. Like, so not a bad pick at all. I'm gonna just stick with my team. Obviously, I have Derrick Henry right now as my offensive player of the year. The impact has been pretty substantial for what he's done for Baltimore this year. He's on pace for 2,000 rushing yards. And again, Lamar's not really running the ball that much. I would tell you that like if it came down to the read option game, or if I'm obviously when you don't worry about Lamar Jackson, that's when you get burned the most. But 110%, if you're trying to stop the run in Baltimore, key on Derrick Henry first because Lamar's been reluctant to scramble and they haven't done it a ton this year. And the thing that's been so impressive to me for Derrick Henry is I can't tell you how many games I've watched where he has sub 50 or like Cleveland, he had 24 rushing yards at half. There's another game where he had 35 at half and he ends with 160. Now, granted, a lot of it is off one big 60-yard breakaway run, but teams have honestly done a pretty good job of game planning against Derrick Henry in the first half. I would love to see his splits first to second half yardage because I think it would shock a lot of people.
Yeah.
But he has been a monster. And again, it's just the threat. Because again, where does Lamar Jackson hurt you the most? It's when you're not worrying about him. And when you're worried about Derrick Henry, it is easy to just, all it takes is one play where you're like, oh, we didn't put a spy on for one play.
Yeah.
And that might be the 50-yarder to the house, you know? So he has been a stud for Baltimore. And I think anytime a running back's going to get close to that 2K mark, it's something that should be recognized.
Yeah. And I think Saquon's the other guy, obviously, in this
That's a three
running.
horse race. I agree.
That's the other guy that it could be. Saquon's had the highlights. He's been impressive.
He's had the highlights, and I'll tell you that if the tush push was never created, he'd probably be the leader for this award.
Yeah. Yeah. He'd have a lot more
Uh,
touchdowns that way, probably.
have you seen that stat where he's been tackled at the 9 times this year, and on
Damn.
the subsequent play, 7 of those 9 times tush push for a touchdown for Jalen Hurts.
Jeez.
Yeah,
That's a bummer.
and he's got 10 rushing touchdowns. Like he legitimately could have 17 rushing touchdowns in week 10 right now. I think the other 2 plays, like it was a failed pass play by Jalen Hurts, and then they gave him 1 carry where he got tackled at the line of scrimmage. But the other 7, all tush
Dang.
pushes for TDs.
That is
It's insane.
that's
Dude.
actually really depressing. I didn't know that. That's
Yeah, like that's what's so crazy because I have him in a fantasy league. I don't want to say in that league he's like the number 4 running back, or
Mhm.
number 3 running back maybe, and like he just gets 2 or 3 of those. Like he might be 1,
Yeah.
and he would easily be 1 if he had all 7.
He probably would. That's actually
That's
crazy.
fucking insanity.
Damn, if he had half of those, I think you got to put him at 1. Like,
And he would probably be our offensive player of the year candidate right here.
yeah, dang. Defensive player of the year, I have TJ Watt. I mean, this race has been honestly the most uninteresting race so far this year.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like it was like Aiden Hutchinson, I think, was a front runner for it before he got hurt, and it was like,
Yep.
oh, maybe TJ Watt wins it, but it's like, no, I think this is TJ Watt's race at this point.
Like honestly, I don't think he's played super great.
No, he
Like I think
hasn't. But
this is one of those years where again, if he kicks it on for 4 games at the end of the year, they'll hand it to him, and it's just going to be one of the awards where it's like, kind of felt like last year's MVP, where it's like, nobody really won it. We'll just give it to this guy. He was really good, I guess.
yeah,
Like that's where it kind of feels like it's going. And so he is the odds-on favorite right now. I was trying to pick somebody that wasn't, and also somebody that wasn't. Again, like his pass rush win rate, I think is at like a career low so far this year, which I will tell you it's not going to be because he's going to eat Baltimore alive when they play. I saw that somebody tweeted like TJ Watt has his lowest pressure percentage since his rookie year, and a Ravens fan quote retweeted like, "Don't worry, guys, he's just saving it for Sunday." God damn it, it's so true.
You want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
You know who's in the top 5 of sack leaders still?
Who?
Aiden Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Like that's nuts. Dude hasn't played in
I think
over a
Kyle
month.
Van Noy is still like 6 or 7 on the sack leaderboard, and I don't think he's gotten one since like week 4.
Nice. Cal
I
Van
think he
Noy is
had like
8th. Yep.
Yeah, he had 6 through the first 3 games, and then I think he's got 1 since. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah, TJ Watt has
But
6.5 so far this season.
yeah, which the numbers are tough. Like you can't just look at sacks and tackles for loss when you're looking at that high caliber of a guy, just because they're facing doubles, right? That's the name that's circled on the fucking depth chart on the scouting report. Trey Hendrickson is an interesting name that I think might go here just because he's probably going to lead the league in sacks, but he is such a god awful fucking run defender that I couldn't pick him for my defensive player of the year candidacy. Like I think he's legitimately like a bottom 20, like a 20th percentile run defender. It's bad.
Oh,
But
the thing I forgot to mention with Jamar Chase, he is the Triple Crown leader right now.
ooh.
So
I mean, if you win a triple, so say this, like, what's the scenario? Like, Derrick Henry runs for 2K yards and 17 touchdowns. Jamar Chase wins a triple crown. Who wins Offensive Player of the Year?
probably Derrick Henry, just because I think if Lamar wins or Jamar wins Triple Crown, I think it's only going to be like 1,500 yards, 1,600 yards is my guess.
Okay.
And I think when Cooper Kupp did it, it was like close to 2K. Wasn't it like 19 something or 18?
I think so, yeah.
It was something. So it's probably that 2K mark is a bigger deal than, and I mean, 2K for a running back is a bigger deal than just the Triple Crown for a wide receiver. So
Yeah, even though it's, I don't think it. I think the Triple Crown's been less rare or
more rare. Yeah,
more rare,
probably.
but at the same time, it's, you have to look at the scope of the league. Like it's not the 1960s.
Yeah.
You know, we're not
I
running the
was like,
ball like
man,
that.
I've had a better reason for picking Jamar, and I was like, oh yeah, he's a Triple Crown leader right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's
So you got T.J. Watt again. Trey Hendrickson's going to be up there just because he's leading the league in sacks, but I'm not a fan of those pure edge rushers that can't defend the run. So I'm going to give it to a guy who doesn't play the edge spot, but he is, I think, second or third in the league in sacks. I'm going to go with sexy Dexter Lawrence for the New York Giants. It's my defensive player of the year. I want to say he's top 3 in sacks. He's obviously a very good run defender. That's where he made his money. That's why he was one of the higher paid interior linemen. And now all of a sudden he was leading the league in sacks there for a while. I think
yeah,
there was a 2 to 3 week stretch where he was leading the league in sacks, and I was like, I remember that they were running, the scroll at the bottom of the board, and as I was like, holy shit, Dexter Lawrence leading the league in sacks, and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty much a two man defensive player of the year race between Miles Garrett and T.J. Watt. This is a couple weeks back, but I was like, Dexter Lawrence is fucking leading the league in sacks right now as a defensive tackle.
yeah. He's
Or I don't remember what bogus stat they brought up. Like, it was something about an interior lineman.
like the
And
Giants' defense on paper is crazy because you say, okay, Kayvon Thibodeau is one of your edges. Like, okay, he's pretty solid. Like, he's still a little unproven, but he's shown flashes of being really good.
yeah, showing a lot of flashes.
Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns. You're like, oh, that's the best front three in the league, and it's like, yeah, they have 2 wins,
Yeah.
so nobody cares.
Yeah. And they're the back half of that defense isn't great. Like, it's
Yeah,
not bad, but it's not great. Yeah, I remember when we were first doing our record predictions at the beginning of the year, and I think when I first got it all said and done, I think I had them at like 6 wins, and I'm like, I'm valuing those 3 guys
yeah, way
way
too
too fucking
much.
much here. I'm getting a little, because again, as a defensive guy, like that dude, that 3 up front makes, like, it gets me a little excited. That gets me going. And I could tell by the time I got done, I was like, Daniel Jones 6 wins, calm the fuck down
Yeah,
here.
no, they're not
Let's
that.
relax.
They're not quite that good.
Yeah, not that good.
All right,
You want to get us coach of the year? What you got?
coach of the year, I got Dan Campbell. Um, I think he's the betting favorite. I think if they're uh, the number one seed in the NFC, I think it's his award to lose. I think there's a lot of love for him. Um, I think there's a lot of people who could win this award. Uh, I think Mike Tomlin still could win this award. I almost picked that just to make you mad, but I think if they finish the season with like 4 losses or so I think he could be in the running for it. Um, but I think the Eagles, it stands to lose at this point.
Remind me, did he win last year or 2 years ago?
He did not win it
Dan?
2 years ago, and I don't think he won it last year. I think.
How does he not have a fucking coach of the year under his belt already?
Well, see, Coach of the Year is one of those awards. Like I think Bill Belichick's only won it twice.
Well, again, the reason I say Dan Campbell should have one under his belt, because to me, the number one thing that should go into coach of the year
Crazy.
is expectation versus reality. So like that first year when Detroit popped off, to me, he should have been he should have been coach of the year that year. And Bill Belichick, you're like, by year 6 with Brady, you're like, that guy's not touching the award because we
Yeah,
expect them to be good, kind of thing.
it was Kevin Stefanski last year.
Crazy pick.
I think it was because of the Joe Flacco run, but
The Flacco run, I
yeah,
guess,
it
maybe.
is not. Brian Dayball won it 2 years ago, which is crazy.
I mean, they made the playoffs, didn't they?
That was the year they made the playoffs. They were nine and
I think they
seven.
won
They
a playoff game that year too. I
they
think they
they
won in the
they,
wild
they
card.
did. They won the
I'm
wild
all
card.
for Dayball getting that award. Like, you take Daniel Jones to the playoff, you hand that motherfucker an award. All right, god damn it.
And
Like,
then it was Vrabes the year before that, and then Stefanski the year before that, and then Harbaugh.
boy, kind of a fucking dead award there. Kind of a bad omen to win Coach of the Year
Oh,
by the
sorry.
list of guys you just named.
Belichick has won 3 all time.
Okay, still. Yeah, Coach of the Year. It's one of those things where, like, I don't love how that award works because, again, you're like, Bill Belichick should have fucking 7 to 10 easily. But again, expectation versus reality. Tomlin's not a bad pick. I can't deny it. Like, as much as I want to. Like, whether it was Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, I did not see this team playing this well. Like, just bar none. Didn't see it happening.
Oh,
Like
this is such a bad award.
just the history of it, the winners.
It's horrendous, dude. What
Give me some of the low lights.
Jason Garrett 2016. Yikes.
Yikes!
Matt Nagy 2018.
Yikes!
Ron Rivera won his second one in 2015. Think about that for a second. Ron Rivera has 2 of these and Bill Belichick has 3. That's
That's
insane.
nuts.
That's
That's
crazy.
that is crazy.
Bruce Arians won his second in 2014.
Yeah.
Okay, a little scary. I guess okay. I don't know how much we weigh that because again, he has 2 and he has no business having 2. But the 1 year was for the year he took over for Chuck Pagano when did Chuck Pagano have cancer? And he had to
I
step
think
down,
that
and then I think
sounds.
Bruce Arians finished the season out for him.
Yeah, that sounds
Um,
right.
Marvin Lewis has one at 10 and
Yeah.
6. That's
Good
solid.
lord.
Mike Smith won it in 2008 for the Falcons.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was the coach of the Falcons in 08.
Mike Smith.
Yeah.
It's the most AI generated name of all time.
Lovie Smith has this award once, 2005, Chicago Bears. Last time Andy Reid has won this award was 2002 with the Eagles.
Crazy. He should have one amongst this dynasty
I
run.
just can't believe he doesn't have any. Like, that's crazy that he doesn't have any
Yeah.
with them. Dan Reeves has won it twice for the Falcons.
Wow.
Jim Haslett won it in 2000 for the Saints at 10 and 6. There's a lot of 10 and 6s on here where it's like,
Yeah.
I think you're right where it is. It goes to the coach where it's like the expectations
That
were
team was supposed to
here
win 5 games and they won 10.
10, and so it's like the coach gets it, and then like you just look back at it and you're like, how the fuck does that guy have 3 of them? Ron Rivera
Exactly.
has
Yeah.
2 of those awards. Like that's insanity.
And by that terminology, Tomlin should have like 6 at this point.
Right.
So
How did he
I
not
can't
win
deny.
it for the Duck Hodges year? What year was that year?
I don't know. It's whatever year they went 8-1.
Yeah.
It was one of the first years they did the 17 game schedule.
I don't think he's ever won it. Tomlin has never won it, which I guess kind of makes sense.
That's crazy. Well, early on it makes sense because he was handed such a good roster where you're like, you better fucking win, dummy. But like these last couple of years, yeah, he probably should have.
Yeah, you either have to be like ungodly dominating the league, like that's the other time coaches win this.
I was like, that's Campbell's case because he's put up 50, I think, 3 separate games this year.
Like, well,
Ben Johnson's gonna get fucking paid this offseason.
Okay, Ron Rivera 15 and 1, he wins it. Like your good coaches win it. Like John Harbaugh won it when they went 14 and 2.
Yep.
Your actual good coaches win it when they win 14 games. Belichick in 2010 when he went 14 and 2. Belichick in 07 when they went 16 and 0. Who saw that coming?
Imagine that.
03 when the Patriots went 14 and 2. Like it is like when it goes to a good coach, it's because they just win, 15, 16, 14 games.
Yep. So again, Tomlin's not a bad pick.
Yeah.
I like the Dan Campbell pick. I've got Kevin O'Connell as my coach of the year. Again, looking at that, I was trying to find anybody who fit that criteria of expectation versus reality that wasn't named Mike Tomlin. That's really where I was going. And again, even if and obviously he won't win the award if it falls apart. But if I told you, hey,
that's true.
Jake, you can pick JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold. This team's gonna be fucking. They're gonna start 7-2, or now I think they're 7-3 now. Like drunk. You're like, what? What are they fucking? Did they trade for Derrick Henry and then they fucking cloned fucking Prime Megatron and put him out there with Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson? How the fuck is this team 7-2? No, it's because Brian Flores has them playing as the best defensive football. So I don't know if there's a largely popular assistant coach of the year, coordinator of the year award. Brian fucking Flores, 110%.
Yeah,
that's to me that's probably the lock of all these picks is Brian Flores, and he might work himself into another job.
I liked him. Like I liked him. He was a New England guy. I obviously Miami was a little weird, but I think this season in particular, he will get interviews at the very least after this season. Like
the only reason he probably won't get hired is just because of how much ridiculous coaching talent there is without that asterisk of like the weird Tua stuff in Miami.
You know what's crazy is last offseason we're like the pool of candidates this year is crazy. And then we're going into this next season and the pool of candidates is pretty much the same.
I think we're going to continuously have this.
Belichick, Ben Johnson, I think Ben Johnson probably takes a job this year.
100%.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
And
said that
I'll
last year, but he probably has been up for a job for like 3 years now and just hasn't taken one.
and I don't know if all these reports are true. I do follow a couple Bears accounts on TikTok just because they make funny shit and they're all Bears fans. But um, that Ben Johnson wanted the Chicago job last year to come in and coach Caleb Williams, but they didn't move
Oh,
off Eberflus.
I like that.
So there's a chance that, like, I have no idea how much validity there is that may just be Chicago Bears fans just coping with how horrible their season's gone to this point. But like, that would be a crazy, crazy pick, and I would love that for Bears fans. But
That's a fit that it's like you hear that and you're like, okay, I could see him leaving and being like, hey, I'm running a high powered offense now. The Bears have the potential to be a high powered offense. Like, um, I don't hate that fit.
yeah,
Just to give you an idea of how tight this race is on betting, Dan Campbell's the favorite at plus 380, Mike Tomlin at 450, Jim Harbaugh at 600, Andy Reid at 600, Dan Quinn at 650, Jonathan Gannon at 650, which I wouldn't have guessed that. That's good. Good, Jonathan.
yeah, they played
The
decent.
Cardinals are up there. Kevin O'Connell at 650. Then you ready for this jump? Sean
Like it.
Payton at plus 2600 is the jump. So they don't.
Good lord.
Yeah, they think outside of those top like 6 or 8 guys, they're like, no, it's just no chance.
But the fact that it's 6-8, I mean, that's an impressively open race with
Yeah,
that many candidates still going.
it also feels like a race that nobody has any idea how it's going to go year after year.
Yeah,
So this and comeback player of the year, like the fact that DeMar didn't win it last year is just wild to me. But
yeah.
he's actually played pretty well this year, so like he might be a sleeper candidate for comeback player of the year. Um, the other piece of advice I'm going to give the people real quick here. I know we're cutting it close on time. Uh, don't uh, don't bet Jane Daniels for offensive player of the year. I think Bo Nix is surging. And so I think would be the worst time to bet Jaden Daniels because I think
Yeah, you're never going to get better odds or worse odds on Daniels than you are right
right
now,
now.
too.
So I
Like,
think I
it's
think
going to
Bo
be like one of those bet 10 to win 12 kind of things.
I think Bo Nix is playing well enough where he might surpass Daniels. Shout out Drake May. He should be on the conversation, but he won't be because we
He's
stink.
played well.
He's played so well. He's played so incredibly well. But
The other note that I'll add on to that, just because we've talked about Kyler, we're just talking about Jaden Daniels. Somebody, it's been a very popular meme. The whole like Kyler plays bad after COD comes out thing. They're kind of on a 2 to 3 game win streak right now. Jaden Daniels is kind of struggling, so somebody went through and put up Cliff Kingsbury's
maybe it's
numbers
him.
after COD drops, and they're like, maybe Cliff Kingsbury sucks after COD comes out. It wasn't Kyler this whole time, and you're like, maybe because Jaden Daniels has kind of regressed a bit the
I
last two
I think
seasons.
I think Cliff Kingsbury was the right hire, but I do think he still is figuring out some offensive play calling stuff. So, um,
Yeah,
like Terry McLaurin catching one ball on that Thursday night football game, unacceptable. Like I was finally like, oh my god, this guy's finally getting the love he deserves, and he only catches one ball. I'm like, what are we doing here?
I hate this because I keep thinking of like great things that I wanted to talk about, and we're already gonna go over on time. But like, never mind. I'll save it for next week because it'll be plenty. I'll write it in the script now. But I
Cool,
want to talk about defensive strategies for secondaries next week because it
interesting.
pisses me off.
All right. If you or anyone you know is struggling with a gambling addiction, contact the Problem Gambling Helpline at 800-522-4700. Professionals are available 24 hours a day to take your call. Help is available at no cost to the problem gambler or their concerned others. Um, I'm not going to read these bets off because they're, I don't know, 3 weeks old now at this point.
Yeah, it was week eight's bets.
Week eight's
So yeah,
bets.
3 weeks.
So I'm 14-7 on the season, having a pretty good year betting. I was 3-0 on those bets, so that's pretty solid. Uh, I will
8 of his last 9, folks. He's on a heater.
Yeah, I'm on a little bit of a heater. I actually have like been converting it in my FanDuel account, so I've been doing pretty good. Um,
Fuck yeah.
I have this week. I have Broncos -1.5 versus the Falcons. The Broncos, I just like them in this game. Like I just everything about this is screaming Broncos to me. Um, Chargers -1.5 versus the Bengals. Chargers do one thing really well, and the Bengals struggle to do one thing, and that's stop the run. And the Chargers run the football really well. Um, I think Jim Harbaugh is going to be ready for Jamar Chase, unlike some other teams. So I really like the Chargers that game. Browns might
Unlike the other Harbaugh brother.
unlike the other Harbaugh brother. Browns -1 versus the Saints. The Jameis Winston revenge game is on.
Ooh.
Give me the Browns here. I just think after anytime you fire a coach midseason, you have that magical game. There's always this big drop off in energy, and I think we're going to see that this week. I like the
Yeah.
Browns -1.
Yeah, that's I thought about it. I was like, man, they just held the Falcons to 17 points last week. I don't know. Because
Yeah.
all they have to do is force Jameson. Well, they don't even have to force. All they have to do is catch the picks that Jameis is going to throw their way, and they'll win the game.
If they don't play a
Uh,
video memorial for Jameis Winston when he comes in that stadium and the crowd doesn't give him a standing O, I'll be very disappointed.
it just needs to be the 10-second video of him dancing in the locker room with a torn ACL on crutches. That's all you have to play. Just play those 10 seconds and be like, thank you, Jameis,
Thank you,
and call
Jameis.
it a
We
day.
love you,
Like,
man.
we love you. All right. Over to me. I went 2-1 in week 8. Again, not going to dive into the picks. I'm 10-11 on the year, so I need some wins. Tim's blowing me out of the water. Kind of a inverse of what we had last season, where I got red hot down the stretch. So I was going to do the math. I'll do the math on it next week. I'm going to sit down and just look at our bets, like the history wise, like who's been a good wagon for us. We hitting more pluses and minuses, or we hitting overs unders. I can tell you just from a quick glance that I'm an over under merchant this year. I cannot fucking pick a line to save my life. So
I like
I'm
it.
just going to go with that. I'm just going to ride it, and I'm not even going to try this week. So I picked 3 overs. Detroit and Jacksonville over 46.5. That's been one of the reliable wagons this year. Is like, oh, Detroit's playing a bad team. The line is under 50. Detroit's probably going to score 40 by themselves. Like I think last week, I think in week 8, I had Detroit and Tennessee over 44.5. Detroit hung 52 that week by themselves. So
Here's why I like this too. McCorkle Jones is getting the start for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, that's at least 10 points right there. He's worth
yeah,
at least 10 points.
it's worth at least 10 points to both sides if
Yeah,
you
to
count the
both
pick six
sides.
he's
That's
going to
right.
throw.
I miss you,
So
Mac. I hope you're doing well.
big old Mac Jones guy. So yeah, Detroit and Jacksonville over 46.5. Love it. I'm going to stray away from my normal AFC North under. I'm going to go with an AFC North over this weekend. It's a high one. I have Baltimore and Pittsburgh over 48.5. Now, take this with a grain of salt because again, if there's ever an AFC North matchup that is underdriven purely, like look at the game series from Baltimore and Pittsburgh the last 4 years. It's probably riddled with unders. Under 40, I'd say, in most. Lamar's been hurting a lot of those. The couple that he's played against Pittsburgh, he hasn't played well, but that's not who he's playing as right now. To me, Lamar Jackson's playing the best football of his career. The Pittsburgh Steelers are the best that they've been in the last 4 to 5 years as far as when they're matching up with Baltimore. My saving grace for this game is that Baltimore usually plays down to Pittsburgh, and then Pittsburgh beats Baltimore because they're playing their style of football. Pittsburgh's good this year. Maybe Baltimore will play up and we'll actually have a chance to beat them because we're going to have to play up to the level instead of down. And also, Pittsburgh has looked really good on offense. Baltimore's defense has sucked. This will not be a blowout. So to me, it's going to be a shootout whether either team wins, which is just so it's unsafe because it's just so uncharacteristic of the AFC North and these two teams. But again, I just don't see Pittsburgh scoring under 28, and I don't
Yeah.
see Lamar just putting his tail between his legs and not scoring, 24 to match it. So over at 48.5 for Baltimore and Pittsburgh. My last one, Houston and Dallas over 41.5. Nico Collins is expected to play in that game. I think that's going to be a big juice to CJ Stroud. He's been struggling the last couple weeks. He's had nothing but Tank Dell and Robert Woods to throw to the last couple weeks since Stephon Diggs went down. So Collins being back is a big thing. But if they're smart, the X factor and the key to that game for Houston is going to be Joe effing Mixon and Damian Pierce. Dallas Cowboys have the second worst rush defense in the league, I think, just in front of the Carolina Panthers. Run the damn ball, build yourself some momentum, and then go have CJ Stroud slang that thing all over the place. And hopefully they can put up 35 of those by themselves. Maybe Brandon Aubrey will kick a couple chip shots in. It's going to be – I'm really banking on the run game being absolutely phenomenal and Nico Collins having an impact, but I think Houston probably puts up 28 to 30 of those by themselves. And you're hoping that Dallas can just limp across the rest of the way for that 41.5. So it's my 3 overs for the week.
I like it. I like them. I like them all.
All righty. Well, 6 good bets in the book. We'll see how good they are come next week. You got anything else for these people before we get out of here?
That's it.
All right. Thanks for hanging out the extra 4.5 to 5 minutes. Sorry we went a little bit over today. If you looked at the script, you'd think, wow, this is going to be a 30-minute show. And somehow This is the first time we've went over in like fucking 4 episodes. So couldn't really tell you how that happened, but that's what happens when you start talking about Lamar Jackson and MVPs. So we will. Oh, look at that. I got a jailbreak right as we're getting out of here. So I'm
Perfect.
going to go take care of my son. You guys have a great rest of your day. Until week 12, stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you then.